not doing this. And that's that. I'm not.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Raw Media, where we bring you all the real and woke. Today we're going to be checking out some viral Jordan Peterson moments. Getting straight into things, Jordan has a very strong stance on free speech.
Misuse may become actionable through the human rights tribunals and the courts, and the remedies: monetary damages, non-financial remedies, for example, ceasing the discriminatory practice or reinstatement to the job, and public interest remedies, for example, changing hiring practices or developing non-discriminatory policies and procedures. Jail time is not one of them. Jordan, you're not going to go to jail if you keep this up. Do you find that reassuring?
What if I don't pay the fine?
Then what?
You can't deny that he raises a very good point in this one.
The typical Westerner lived on less than $1 a day, which is absolute poverty by today's standards, right? And so people were brutally poor for almost the entire course of human history. It was rough. You say, well, did men or women have it worse? It's like, well, you know, that's a complicated question. But one of the things you can say is everybody had it pretty damn bad.
Jordan isn't a true fan of some of Trudeau's actions.
Appointed 50% of females to 50% of his cabinet because it was, what did he say? Well, because it's 2015. It's like, no, quarter of your elected members of parliament were female. If your job was to pick the most qualified people, period, regardless of their genitalia, because they're leading the country. You pick the most qualified people. Instead, he abdicated his responsibility to make those difficult decisions and then wallpapered it over with this casual virtue of, well, I'm going to promote women. It's like...
In this clip, she literally just proves his point without even realizing.
I think that gender expression, gender identity are fundamentally social constructs, but I could be wrong.
No, I believe that there are definitely some biological differences between the sexes. We've observed them. I do believe that gender is a hugely powerful social structure that we've built on top of that it is largely, but not entirely, socially constructed. I think
he really does raise a very good point here.
What if I'm speaking to 10 people? Do I get to offend 1 in 10? How about 1 in 100? How about 1 in 1,000? You're going to come out on stage and you're going to say something important about something vital, and you're not going to offend 1 person in 1,000? Well, you can't say anything about anything important ever without offending probably the person you're talking to. Important speech about important issues, especially contentious issues, is instantly offensive.
Someone tries to take Peterson down, but it doesn't work.
Color at your events in future.
I would like there to be no violence.
I'm a person of color and I felt very accommodated here. I felt like my voice, thank you very much.
I'm also former Muslim and I feel like this guy's
I'm a person of color. There are many Muslims.
You wanted to disavow, and this has been disavowed. I am not an advocate of violence. I'm speaking out the way I'm speaking out because I think this is a route to no violence. And violence is lurking. And you can say that that sounds like a threat.
There was no violence at our protest, though. There was violence at your protest. So what does that say about our views?
He will not conform to the language people want him to use.
The Human Rights Tribunal is probably obligated by their own tangled web to bring me in front of it. If they find me, I won't pay it. If they put me in jail, I'll go on a hunger strike. I'm not doing this, and that's that. I'm not using the words that other people require me to use, especially if they're made up by radical left-wing ideologues.
Peterson comes through with some very good points.
In what sense is our society male-dominated?
the fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
Very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men.
He can be funny sometimes, and you just wouldn't even notice.
You get professors and they say, I appreciate humor.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't crack a smile. You know, well, apparently they've had some kind of a face issue. So
I try not to crack a smile when I'm making jokes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
It's more amusing to me that way.
That's more amusing to you. I can understand that. So your art is only for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what some Canadians call that? Pretentious.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Jordan really didn't need much to kill our argument, just one short phrase.
Education, for instance, I think she will have a good platform to become a civil engineer, to become a CEO of a company, or to become a nurse.
Well, that is what people who think that the differences between people who are primarily culturally constructed believe, but it's not what the evidence suggests.
Okay.
Never try to be clever against Peterson, it just doesn't end well.
Well, you know, it's actually rather difficult to answer a question that ends with "your comments are banal," politely. So, you know, I would consider that more of an opinionated personal and political statement than actually a question. So why don't you try reformulating that so that there's an actual question there?
What is your...
Jordan was schooling this feminist on some very insightful statistics.
And having equality of outcome.
Aha, well, so the overwhelming proportion of people who are in prisons are male. Now, do you want to equalize that, just out of curiosity? What about bricklayers? They're 99% male. And we've got about 3/4 of the population now in universities in the humanities and social sciences are female.
Yeah.
Are we going to equalize that? And
Sometimes all he needs is a one-liner to absolutely own people.
How much responsibility do you feel that you have, particularly guys at the alt-right, who, as you say, some of them have enjoyed your work, and say,
No,
I'm not one of you guys. I'm not with you guys.
They haven't enjoyed my work.
I've definitely read bits on the internet.
Read more.
He is not afraid to call out Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
you have a moral duty, if you have the advantage of a name, you have a moral duty to supersede the accomplishments of the person who bore that name and gave it its weight before you dare capitalize on it in the public sphere. And Trudeau did none of that. He knows how to behave, he knows how to act in public. He had the upbringing for it. Other than that, there's nothing there. No.
He's very firm on his stance on language. Just listen for yourself.
Reason I'm not a fan of that sort of person is because I've done my homework. I've read everything I can get my hands on in the development of authoritarian political systems, and I know the literature inside out and backwards. And I am not going to be a mouthpiece for language that I detest. And that's that.
Here's Jordan's thoughts on gender.
Woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No,
Why not?
because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant.
Jordan had some stern words to say to Dave Rubin.
How?
I'm more authentic, I'm more honest.
No. Unforgivably stupid. And I can also see that, and I believe this to be the case, is that you just have failed developmentally. Neurological evidence in that regard is quite clear. You're a child and you're dependent on your parents. You can't treat yourself properly. You can't have a relationship with another person. You can't stabilize your family.
In this one, he really owns a couple of protesters that interrupt his speech.
You know, to hijack an event like this that other people put time and effort into, and to use their civility of the crowd and the civility of the organizers as an excuse to blatantly yell out your ill-informed opinions is no way to conduct a civil dialogue. It's absolutely appalling. The people who do that should be embarrassed.
In this clip, we have a look at Jordan's humor.
Yes, sir.
Nice dance.
Well, thank you.
You're very graceful.
Well, you know, it's funny with Canadians, until he smiles, you don't know if it's a piercing stare or
It's kind of left in the dark on that one.
kind of left in the dark. So
Jordan hates that SJWs are trying to enforce certain speech on people, and he's having none of it.
Z or Zer. Why not?
I don't care what people want to be called, that's fine, but that doesn't mean I should be compelled by law to call them that. The government has absolutely no business whatsoever, ever, governing the content of your voluntary speech.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this and much more. It seriously helps us out, guys. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you all next time.